I am Ajibinto Drame, and this is QTV Midday News, coming to you live from our studios on Keraba Avenue, and thanks for joining us. Our top stories. The Gambia Standards Bureau inaugurates a technical committee of experts to develop standards regulating chemical-related areas such as car emissions, paint and soap. We speak to women fish smokers in Kartong who tell us of the struggles they face trying to make a living. Doctors recommend overseas medical treatment for a 16-year-old who picked up life-changing injuries after a gymnastic accident. In business news, we investigate why a Sukuta market, which should be filled with vendors, mostly lies empty. In international news, 1 year after succeeding his father with the help of the military, Chad's leader has failed to pacify the country and look far of delivering on the promise of a return to civilian rule. And in sports news, the day after the draw for the next edition of the Africa Cup of Nations, we reflect on Gambia's draw and hear the views of the senior football team's head coach. Those were our main headlines. Now the news in detail. Now, the Gambia Standards Bureau on Wednesday inaugurated a technical committee of experts to help develop standards of regulate chemical-related areas such as car emissions, paint and soap. Aliusise reports.
It is the newest among the various technical committees established by the Gambia Standards Bureau to develop and adopt standards in the identified yet unregulated priority areas. This committee, which comprises representatives from the University of the Gambia and the private sector, will complement the ECOWAS Technical Harmonization Committee on Chemical Products and International Organization for Standardization. At an inaugural meeting of the new committee at a local hotel in Kololi on Wednesday, Ibrahima Jallo, Director of Standardization with the Gambia Standards Bureau, said there are signs that the area of chemical such as vehicle emission, paint and soap need national standardization, as a lack of regulation could lead to various adverse health effects.
This is a virgin area for the Bureau. This has been an area that has not been standardized. So, and there are pressing issues that we feel should be standardized. And those include vehicle emissions. We are all going through the roads and we are seeing the emissions we are seeing from vehicles, the exhaust of vehicles, the pollutions that they are doing to the environment.
Supported by the National Environment Agency, the technical committee, as experts in this sector, can come up with new suggestions on areas that they think are critical and need to be standardized. By Midday, Programs Officer, Chemicals and Pesticides with NEA, welcomes the new committee and hopes they will deliver the desired results.
There are some paints in the country that are having lead content of more than 100 ppm. Actually, the accepted value by WHO is 90 ppm. So if we are having paints containing lead of up to 100,000 ppm, and the 90s also, that tells a lot.
While it is mandated to develop standards, the Bureau said it lacks the power to enforce standards, which is one of the challenges hindering its work. Dr. Mohamed Lamin Sanyang, Director of Research and Consultancy at the University of the Gambia, suggests close collaboration with the UTG to incorporate standards in the curriculum.
Any standard that has to do with chemicals and all that, they should be taught that, so that tomorrow those very students will assume positions and then they will implement it. Yes, so that is why we are recommending the Standard Bureau to work closely with the University of the Gambia. Research plays a great part. In order to understand the impacts of all this, it need to be dictated by research.
Oladele Oyalinkin, Senior Lecturer in Chemistry, University of the Gambia, was selected as chairperson of the committee. The technical committee is guided by a code of ethics, which includes transparency and impartiality.
We'll do our best to come up with useful standards, and then we'll do our best to also deal with the implementation and make sure that some of these things are, they are enforced,
What is now needed is a close working relationship between regulators to ensure standards are not only developed but enforced for the betterment of the people and society. The Bureau said it is revising its standardization strategy 2018-2020. The Gambia Standards Bureau was established by an Act of Parliament in 2010 as the national standards body of the Gambia to standardize methods and products produced or consumed in the country and for connected matters. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
Women fish smokers at the Carton Fish Landing site have highlighted the challenges they face in trying to do their work, including a lack of water and storage facilities. Gina Basonko went to meet them. Here is her report.
Fishing is one of the most significant economic activities in the Gambia and contributes approximately 12% to the Gambia's gross domestic product. There are several links in the long chain it takes to reach this significant contribution towards the country's economy, and these women are an important part of the process. Unfortunately, these women face numerous challenges to make a living. Hadijuf has been working here since she was a teenager, and she used to take care of her family from her earnings here. However, she got sick from the smoke and was asked to stop working. This smokehouse should have been built so the smoke goes up, but we have seen that is not the case here, and you can barely even see due to the smoke. When we start smoking fish, we are forced to stay inside despite the smoke to avoid causing a fire incident here. This is not good for our health. Fatu Sambo highlights that they have high rates of theft at the smokehouse due to a lack of security doors or a security guard. As you can see, this door doesn't close, so thieves collect our belongings here, and they usually take things as small as salt. Aside from that, the rainy season is a huge challenge for us because our roof here is not good. When it rains, we just cover our smoked fish, and sometimes, when the rain is too heavy, the fish becomes unfit for consumption. For Aissatou Touré, the lack of storage facilities is one of their major challenges, coupled with inadequate smoking facilities. We face lots of challenges here, but first is the lack of decent-sized smoking space. We usually smoke our fish in tons due to limited space. Due to a lack of concrete platforms on which to dry their fish, these women cut down tree branches or sometimes a whole tree to create these temporary platforms. This is deforestation, which directly contributes to the long-standing effects of climate change. Until facilities greatly improve, it is likely the situation will persist. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Basonko.
In other news, a 16-year-old boy residing in Talinding Kujang in the Kanifing municipality is seeking urgent assistance to undergo overseas treatment following his diagnosis of C-spine injury at the Edward Francis Moore Teaching Hospital in Banjul. The hospital has since recommended overseas treatment. Omar P. Jallo visited the family and prepared this report.
According to his medical report, Mamadou Saliu Jallo was presented to the neurosurgery unit of the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital on the 4th of March 2022 with inability to move all four limbs after falling on his head while doing gymnastic moves while playing with his friends at their Arabic school. Due to a lack of facilities for the surgery in the Gambia, the report recommended treatment overseas, in any country with the facility where he can undergo the surgery as soon as possible. However, the family says they cannot afford it. Here is Buba Haidara, Mamadou Saliu Jallo's caregiver.
The drugs are so much costly because as far as someone who is having the inability to move his body from the neck down to the legs, it is very, very hard for us to find that drugs. Normally, what we do to purchase those drugs is like I will send his younger brother to go to the market to hustle somehow in order to find money, so that when you come, when he arrives for medicine cases, we can go and buy medicines, and out of the feeding cases. So why I will be leaving home, going around looking for sponsor for him, going one institution to another, one organization to another, or even personal people whom you know that we thought maybe those people is having cash or they are having money. We normally go to them.
His appeal for assistance comes after a series of unsuccessful medical treatments in the country. Buba said since the incident, they have many sleepless nights because the boy always cries due to the pain.
So has he seen that big wound? That is like a long time he was lying at one place and one side. That causes that big wound on his body because of he was not advisable to be always turning at side because of the fracture at the neck. So we are just appealing to the general public to help us to finance his overseas treatment so that we can save his life.
Buba therefore appeals for assistance from the government, NGOs, philanthropists and any individual who can help facilitate the boy's overseas treatment.
Now he is serious. Like we can lose him any minute from now because we don't have anything to take care of him, because the blood is not circulating or it's not moving like the way we want. So what we normally do is we will use the kettle and heat the water. Then later we will use that water to massage his body so that the blood can be moved.
Anyone wishing to help Mamadou Salif Jallow can contact us on 333-4245, 333-4245, or email us at news@qtv.gm. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallow.
Unfortunate story there. We implore people to come on board and support. And from that story, we will go for a short commercial break. Still to come, we have more stories. Do stay tuned.
QCell's Q Prayer and Q Ramadan service reminds you of your 5 daily prayer times and the start and end times for your fast. Simply send prayer to 331 to be reminded of the 5 daily prayer times. Send Ramadan or fast to 332 to be notified of the start and iftar time of fasting on a daily basis. QCell wishes you all a blessed Ramadan. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back, and next is some business news. The Sukuta market, which to this point has been funded by the Gambian Women's Federation and was opened years ago, the market is still struggling to attract both vendors and buyers who prefer to sell and buy elsewhere due to the incompletion of the structure. QTV spoke to various stakeholders. More in this report. While the space remains unoccupied, market women complain about the lack of safe structures from which to sell. The strategic landscape site, officially called the Gambia Women's Federation Market, located on the outskirts of Burusubi, is left empty. We are told that during the first phase of construction, a few vendors used to sell in the stalls. However, that was cut short during the rainy season, as the place gets inundated with water, making access a difficulty for both vendors and buyers alike. Binta Kujabi and Sirakuli, both market vendors, are among the few that occupied the desolated facility when it was under construction a few years ago. After witnessing how the newly constructed market became inundated with water during rainy season, stopping buyers as it became unsafe, they chose instead to erect stalls in front of the market gate to continue earning a living. We are appealing to the government to investigate the issue of this market because it is in a strategic location. Let them help us, as petty trading is our livelihood. The market construction started since Jammeh's time. The bare ground, which is unpaved, stops us from operating. We have been pleading with the government to help complete the structure, so the women can come here and do their business. If this market was completed, it would boost the economy. Despite officially opening in 2016, the uncompleted enormous space, with over 400 structures including boutiques and stalls, toilets, is left void of occupants. Maria P.H. Da Costa, interim president of the Gambia Women's Federation, says the halt in completion is due to a lack of funds.
We've written proposals to different institutions, both internal and externally, even the head of state. There was a visit that was done to him during the early days of the transition. This was followed, I think, sometime last year with a proposal that was requested by one of his administrative secretaries. And we submitted a whole proposal. Our key area of concentration is to get the landscaping.
Maria Da Costa says women have been yearning to operate in the market.
All who have the interest of women at heart, whether male or female, philanthropists, Gambians, including the government for that matter, we are calling them to come, because people would come, look at the place and make promises. And you know, we are very good in making promises.
Meanwhile, we contacted the Birkama Area Council to shed light on what plans, if any, there are for the market, but they say the market is not under their jurisdiction. The market has over 350 stalls, over 25 toilets, concrete tables and chairs. In addition, part of the market plan when completed was to have a small mall, running water, storage facilities, an ice plant, electricity, paved concrete internal pathways, security posts and more. While it remains uncompleted, all of that is lying empty. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News. Here's some news from beyond our borders. The Republic of Chad may not anytime soon see a democratic transition of civilian rule as the military junta led by the country's former president's son, who had seized power after his father's death a year ago, fails to make a significant progress to prepare grounds for a free and fair election. Mobdula Michoy reports.
It is 1 year since Chad's former president, Idriss Déby Itno, lost his life on the front line, fighting rebel groups self-proclaimed as the Front for Change and Concord in Chad. This end to Déby's 30-year rule led to his son, General Mohamed Idriss Déby Itno, seizing power with the help of the country's military, claiming to continue his father's legacy. The response of the international community to Mohamed Idriss Déby's power grab since his father's death, particularly that of France, has been criticized as a double standard. Thus, despite previously expressing opposition to the trend of military coups in Africa, France had shown support for the Chadian military junta. However, since taking power, the 30-year-old military general has fallen short of delivering on expectations to bring democracy, peace and stability to Chad. The military junta had promised to lead an 18-month transitional government led by General Déby, within which time the army vowed to hold democratic elections. However, 1 year on, amidst a fast approaching deadline, there are fears that the ground may not be fertile for holding elections. Abi Sani, a security expert with the Jadike Center for Human Security and Peace Building, as reported by DW, says nothing significant had changed in Chad since General Déby took control. As before his father's death, Chad still faces major issues such as militancy and insecurity. According to analysts, this makes an unconducive environment for guaranteeing free and fair elections. After seizing power, the 15-member military junta, who had planned to stabilize Chad, failed to bring the much-longed-for peace and stability. The junta is still unable to reach a deal with the rebels, whose actions led to the death of Déby Itno's father. Peace talks with the rebel groups in Qatar, which began last month, have experienced delays and are not yielding results, particularly as both sides refuse to have face-to-face talks. With both sides committed to holding onto their entrenched positions, 250 opposition and government officials involved in talks since March have failed to make a breakthrough. Therefore, the country is no closer to returning to democratic rule as threats from rebels and terrorists in the Sahel region still loom large. The civilian population are therefore more vulnerable to becoming casualties of the conflict. The United Nations report that 5.5 million Chadians need emergency humanitarian aid. If the situation remains unresolved, it could prove catastrophic for the 42% of the country's population of 16 million who live in abject poverty. Mahmoud Lamenchoy, QTV News.
And now onto some sports news. The Gambia is handed what is seen as a fair draw for the AFCON 2023 Côte d'Ivoire qualifiers. They will face familiar opponents Mali, Congo and South Sudan in Group G. Our sports reporter, Mombudu Gajaka, was monitoring and he now reports.
A surprise performance at their maiden AFCON appearance in Cameroon, where they reached the quarterfinals, the Gambia will again be hoping to qualify for a successive AFCON. The draw for the Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers Côte d'Ivoire 2023, conducted by African football legends, former South African defender Lucas Redipe and ex-Côte d'Ivoire forward Solomon Kalou, saw Mali, Congo, Gambia and South Sudan drawn in Group G. In reaction to the draw, Scorpions head coach Tom Sanfield says it wouldn't be as easy as it looks for many Gambians.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very interesting draw. It's not the most difficult group possible, but it's also not the most easy group. I think the moment we start underrating our opponents, we will not qualify. There are two countries who are better ranked on the FIFA ranking than us. For sure, Mali is the favorite, but also Congo-Brazzaville is a good football nation. So it won't be easy, and even South Sudan we can't underestimate. It's a fair group, fair draw. In this group, everyone can win against each other and everyone can lose against each other. So it will be very important that we play consistent.
All three countries in Group G have played against the Gambia. Mali were held to a 1-1 draw in the last AFCON Cameroon during the group stage. Gambia defeated Congo 1-0 in a friendly and won 2-1 against South Sudan also in a friendly. Sanfied says those results are now in the past and will have no impact on the qualifiers, which starts in June.
We have to be focused, well prepared, and hopefully it will be enough to repeat our success of 2021 AFCON to qualify again, because it was a sweet taste to play at that AFCON, and I think every Gambian would like that we return to it. But it won't be easy. Very important is that we respect our opponents, that we are humble and modest, and that we work very hard and play disciplined, and then we can hopefully, inshallah, repeat the success we had.
The Gambia will begin its quest for a place in Côte d'Ivoire by hosting South Sudan before playing away to Congo on match days 1 and 2 of the qualifiers in June. The Scorpions will then play away and host Mali in matches days 3 and 4 in September before rounding off away to South Sudan and at home to Congo in March 2023. Mamadou Gajaga, QTV News.
Before we end, here's a recap of our main headlines. The Gambia Standards Bureau inaugurates a technical committee of experts to develop standards regulating chemical-related areas such as car emissions, paint and soap. We spoke to women fish smokers in Khartoum who told us of the struggles they face trying to make a living. Doctors have recommended overseas medical treatment for a 16-year-old who picked up life-changing injuries after a gymnastic accident. In business news, we investigated why a Sukuta market, which should be filled with vendors, mostly lies empty. In international news, 1 year after succeeding his father with the help of the military, Chad's leader has failed to pacify the country and looks far of delivering on the promise of a return to civilian rule. And in sports news, the day after the draw for the next edition of the Africa Cup of Nations, we reflect on Gambia's draw and heard the view of the senior football team's head coach. That's it from me in today's Midday News. Thank you for watching.